Have you ever sat down and experienced a really good crossover? The kind of one that can get you invested into its story no matter how strange or outlandish it may be? If your answer is no, then allow me to introduce you to an amazing story today. Hello, Phillies and Gentle Colts, I am SomberChaos, and welcome to another episode of SomberChaosReviews. Today, we will be talking about a crossover fan animation that is very dear to me and one of the best the brewing community has to offer. Turnabout Storm. Turnabout Storm is a very ambitious idea for a young lady who goes by the username of Neo Artemis, and the fruit of 2 years of labor. Much like a really good obscure anime, Turnabout Storm, despite how amazing it is sinfully underrated all across the board. Those who have seen it have given it great praise, myself included. This crossover work is over 8 hours in length. Now, because of this, I need to go back to reviewing by category just for this one episode. Also, I should mention this review does have minor spoilers, but nothing too story-breaking. So, enough with all this talking, I'm excited for this, so let's get into story. The story is that there has been a murder in the Everfree Forest and Rainbow Dash is framed for it. Equestria being a place where murder is unheard of and the worst crimes that are committed are break-ins and robberies, all the equestrian lawyers who Twilight tries to contact to take Rainbow Dash's case turn her down. Celestia suggests Phoenix Wright, who if you played any of the Ace Attorney games, you should be all too familiar with. Long story short, he solves murder cases where the client turns out to have been framed by someone else. So after being teleported to Equestria by Twilight and some ego stroking, Phoenix reluctantly accepts Rainbow Dash's case. Twilight and Phoenix must find out who really killed the great Pegasus athlete Ace Swift, lest Rainbow Dash be sent to the moon or even the sun for a crime she may or may not have actually committed. The story is pretty edgy for an MLP setting and has some great twists and turns. It's also interesting how some later plot elements are left open to audience interpretation. However, some may call them plot holes. It's a very interesting and risky way to write a compelling story. I would prefer not to give any examples, but I will say this. They know what they should and shouldn't explain. Now going into characters and voice acting, there are so many characters in this. We have Phoenix Wright, the Judge, Edgeworth, Mia Faye, Maya Faye, Pearl Faye, Twilight, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Rarity, Scootaloo, Appleboom, Sweetie Belle, Crixie, Celestia, Lyra, Derpy, and Gilda. Oh my word, that's a lot. Almost all of these characters are portrayed perfectly, but in addition to all these lovely characters, we also have 4 OCs, who I will briefly talk about right now. First, we have the victim of the case, Ace Swift, renowned for continuously winning the Equestria 500, a race that certain elements of the story revolve around. Then, there's Sonata, who is revealed to be Ace's manager. She's very mysterious and bears a striking resemblance to Mia Faye, and that's all there really is to say about her without revealing too much. Next is Cruise Control. He's real, well...
No! You have to actually mean it when you're sorry! You have to mean it! Say it with lots of remorse! I'm sorry! No!
Strange. There is more to this character than zany comic relief, but again, divulging any of that information would be revealing too much. Last OC in this is Lenora. She's a griffin and she's kind of just there for the race. She also gives a little bit more information on Cruise Control's character, but beyond those 2 brief things, her inclusion is almost useless. The characters are all likable, but the voice actors in this are another story. The MLP fan voice actors make up a small community on their own, and there are some people in this community who I like to call the Big Five. These people are Bald Dumbo Rat, who is usually the go-to voice for Derpy, and sometimes Dinky. No Whacking, who is the go-to voice for Vinyl. That Canadian dude who has been featured in many MLP fan works. Rena Can, who is actually an accomplished voice actress and for a long time was the go-to voice for Twilight. And Elamonte, who is the go-to voice for Octavia. The reason I tell you this is because 4 out of these 5 people are featured in Turnabout Storm, and they give some of the best performances I've heard from them. And it's just another reason why I can't believe this crossover hasn't been seen by more people. I want to keep this review short so I don't have time to show any samples, but trust me, it's real good. Some other voice actors gave great performances, and I would cite them all, but again, I don't want to be here all day. Besides, I can't even pronounce some of these names. Shiro Yusagini? Tomoyo Ichigogi? Okay, screw you. But it's not completely perfect. While I love Turnabout Storm to death, I do have one issue with it, and that's the voice actor for Crixie.
That lavender loser ruined it all. My stage is busted up and falling apart, and I don't have the money to fix it. Wherever I go, my shows bomb. I've made it regular practice to dodge tomatoes. It's not fair. It's like a cruel joke. Life gives you something you think you're gifted at, and then some little goody four-horseshoes know-it-all comes along and ruins all the success in a heartbeat.
I really don't know what the actress playing her was going for with Crixie's voice, but it doesn't really sound right to me. It's minor, but it's noticeable. Also, this seems to be a running theme with people voicing Twilight. Though the voice actress for Twilight in Turnabout Storm is generally commendable, with Twilight's more extreme emotions, she tends to, well...
It's Sparkle! 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 Not Sparkler!
Yeah, it's pretty cringeworthy. I should also mention Rainbow Dash's voice in part 1 and 2 of the fan animation, which is,
Phoenix? Sweet name. But it could sound cooler.
Cooler?
I think I'll call you Nyx. That sounds cool.
let's just say, really not Rainbow Dash. However, this will not affect the score because the voice was revised in later parts to a voice that sounds much more accurate to Rainbow Dash's. So since it was fixed early on in production and therefore for the majority of the fan animation, I may add, it doesn't really count in my opinion. There's another reason that doesn't count, but I will get to that later. But aside from those small oddities, the voice acting is still pretty solid. Now, going into imagery. The entire project is made in the style of an Ace Attorney game, with the major difference being it's all voice acted, and Ace Attorney hadn't had voice acting until the most recent game, and that was only in cutscenes. Most of the images you see in the video during investigations are vectors from the show with actions or expressions to match what the characters are saying or how they're feeling. Something most Brony analysts and reviewers, myself included, do, but on a much larger and detailed scale. And it's just like watching an Ace Attorney case. But in the courtroom, things are stepped up a notch. There are still vectors from the show, but there are a few more animations as well. And it all comes together very nicely. I can't find any outlying problems with it, and as far as the spelling goes, I can't find any errors. Last thing I will be covering is references, because I feel that Turnabout Storm has some noteworthy references. I already talked about how the project is made in the style of an Ace Attorney game, but you may not realize that it also utilizes some of the same humor that the Ace Attorney games use. From in-depth conversations to whether it's really a ladder or a stepladder, to the never-ending jokes about Phoenix's hair. Some of the other references are how certain Ace Attorney characters are referenced through MLP characters. There's a nod to Cupcakes, nods to both Gens 1 and 3, Super Mario Bros., Fourth Wall Breaking, Madonna. I could go on and on and on, but we would be here all day. Unlike the references in Double Rainbow, these references aren't shoved in your face or in the background with no purpose, but rather Easter eggs for you, the viewer, to pick out, ever so subtly hidden in the dialogue. It works so well because the humorous references have been a staple of the Ace Attorney games since the first game. In my personal opinion, if you must have references, this is a much more clever way to do it than just having it there on screen for X amount of time for no reason. Now I think we should proceed with my final verdict. Get it? See what I did there? Because this is kind of like an Ace Attorney thing, and Turnabout Storm is like, okay, I'll just get on with it. As much as people want to follow up to Turnabout Storm, sadly, it won't happen. Neil Armas has gone on record explaining why a sequel will not be made, saying that she was burnt out midway through working on Turnabout Storm, and she fears that if she does another one, she will completely lose motivation halfway through, and we will be left with an unfinished story, which is something she does not want to happen. But despite the fact that she will not make a sequel, she's not even done with Turnabout Storm yet. As I write and make this review, she is working on a bad ending for Turnabout Storm and a 7 to 8 hour movie of the whole project with a revised parts 1 and 2. And I've even heard rumors about it being made into a fan-made playable Ace Attorney case. Final thoughts are, this is pure bliss. In a world where crossovers aren't generally done that well, especially when dealing with opposites, in this case, bringing a subject as iffy as straight up murder into a shiny kid-friendly world like the My Little Pony universe, you think it would automatically suck. But no, this is god-tier work, and it is deserving of more attention. It's almost nearly perfect, its only shortcomings being the long 8-hour runtime and the meh-ish voice for Crixie. As a reviewer, I understand that nothing is completely perfect, but Turnabout Storm comes close. So with that, I give Turnabout Storm a rating of 9.6 out of 10. You need to go watch this. It is a very, very good fan work. The reason I love Turnabout Storm is because of how well and how professionally the story is told, as well as how fun it is to watch and figure out what's going on, especially if you're both a fan of the Ace Attorney games and My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. So that's it for this review. This is SomberChaos, and court is adjourned. Flying out. SomberChaos flying out. That's what I meant. Hey guys, Somber Guy here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of SomberChaosReviews. I absolutely adored working on it. This is an end slate, so I have to recommend some videos. I'm recommending my top 5 best and worst list of Season 4. It was a lead-in to this review of Castlemania that I am also recommending. Big thank you to my friend Smugleaf, who is now my full-time Titlecard artist. He made this, and a link to his Deviantart will be in the description below. This episode is also very special because I finally got a proper video editor, so my reviews can be a lot more shiny now. So that's all I have to say, and as for my next review, I'll just leave you with this clip.
This book is from across the sea.
That's where all those weird ponies and humans live, right?
They aren't weird, Spike. They're just...
They're just what?
Really happy.
They seem too frolicky for my taste.